hats to follow. I can't beat the hats and the costumes. And I really enjoyed Scott Taylor's comments about storytelling and elevating the message. Ravit referred to some good news or updates, and that is that New Vantage Partners, company that I founded 20 years ago in 2001, was acquired yesterday by a company, Wavestone, which is based in Paris, France. It's a global consulting firm, does everything from data strategy to data governance to data management to data security. So a big CISO and information security practice, and delighted to be part of their global organization. So in terms of the book, Fail Fast, Learn Fast, I really wrote it for four audiences. The first audience is senior business leaders, CEOs, board members. And what I was trying to do was really make it simple. So as I describe it to people, sometimes I say I was writing for a third grade audience, which they think I'm kidding, but I'm actually serious. I'm trying to make it so it's highly intelligible. I also wrote the book for practitioners. So there's roughly 25 case studies in the book from leading Fortune 1000 companies in terms of what they're doing and accomplishing and lessons learned. Third, I wrote it for students, executive students, as well as the next generation that's coming along, because what I tried to do in the book is impart my knowledge over the past decade so others could learn from those experiences and what I've seen and take a look into the future. And then finally, I wrote for general readers who are trying to understand what all the fuss is about relative to data, particularly over the past years. There's been much in the news about positivity rates and trying to understand the data, and that's impacted the average person. So I thought I would begin by reading from the beginning of the book just to set the tone. So the book begins as follows. The world is in a race to become data-driven, now more than ever. The warp speed effort to organize scientific and epidemiological data from across the globe in a heroic effort to find a COVID-19 vaccine has illustrated the urgency and existential nature of this quest. We need data, science, facts, knowledge, and insight to make informed, wise, and critical decisions. Now more than ever, data matters, and having good data matters tremendously. So what I've really tried to do is emphasize why now more than ever data is important, this sense of urgency that it touches all of our lives, whether we're in the data profession or just in the general public. And I'm also trying to inspire so that people really appreciate the interconnected nature of everything that we do and how data flows through organizations and flows through all aspects of society. A little bit about the book. It's organized into 10 chapters. I was fortunate to have a foreword to the book written by my colleague and longtime friend, Tom Davenport, who's a fellow with New Vantage Partners. So in terms of the 10 chapters, I begin with a little history of big data. That's a play on words, little and big. But the notion is I've spent a generation in the field, so it's really trying to share what I've learned, what's changed and what's not changed. Data has continued to proliferate, new sources of data, greater computing power. But people are really facing the same questions that they were facing 35 or 40 years ago. How can we gain insights? How can we act on that knowledge? How can we be smarter about what we do based upon the data that we have? The second chapter of the book is called Think Different, Becoming Data-Driven, and it really is about the mindset that becoming a data-driven organization requires a different way of thinking, because data flows across the organization, particularly legacy organizations aren't typically set up to manage data as an asset. I move into a few other chapters, including the state of data in the corporate world today. We do an annual executive survey of Fortune 1000 C executives. And some of the data that report from the book is that the majority of organizations do not see themselves as being data-driven or having data culture or competing in data and analytics or leveraging data as a business asset. So what that means is two things. One is we've been at this for a long time and organizations are still struggling. But secondly, it represents a tremendous opportunity for organizations and individuals to learn and grow. And there'll be a significant demand keeping everybody busy for the coming years, decades, and generation. I also talk about the rise of the chief data officer, something that have been closely involved with the first chief data officer for top 4 U.S. global bank came out of our firm in the early 2010s. So have been advising organizations and actually serving as interim chief data officers for several Fortune 1000 companies. Probably my favorite chapter in the book is where I talk about data responsibility and data ethics, which I think is becoming increasingly important. And this is the one cautionary chapter in the book, and I'll read from it briefly. And this is from a quote from the Wall Street Journal from about 3 years ago that could still apply today. And it goes as follows. Big data is the big bad of our moment. Companies and governments amass enormous troves of information about our online and offline activities so they can understand them better than we do. Creepy firms like Cambridge Analytica mine big data from websites such as Facebook. Facebook itself seems increasingly creepy, grounding and lying to the public about what happens to the data it collects. So, that's a particular point of view, but organizations are becoming more and more sensitive to the importance of data ethics and data responsibility. You may have seen the recent announcement this week, MasterCard, CVS Health, and about 12, Facebook as well, about 12 large Fortune 1000 US company banded together to form a new data and AI ethics consortium. And then lastly in the book, I close with a couple chapters on the glimpse of the future. I'll look at data-driven AI and also data-driven leadership, one company's odyssey. In this particular case, I traced the work that American Express had done over a decade, and what has worked and what has not worked, and how they've remedied that in terms of becoming a successful organization. And lastly, I conclude with a quote from Doug Cutting, who's been in the data field, was a founder of Cloudera, and he points to the fact that becoming data-driven is really a journey. It's not a destination. It's not something that you get to and you can sit back and relax and enjoy the holidays. It requires a relentless pursuit and a relentless drive to become a data-driven organization. So Doug Cutting says, organizations and individuals are on a data journey. It is a slow revolution, a revolution over time. Let iterative success grow and then spread. It is ultimately a process, but perfection is unachievable. It will always be a continuous journey. So thank you very much for having me today, and I would be happy to answer a few questions.
Thank you very much, Randy. This was super insightful.
Yes, absolutely. Always a pleasure to talk to you, Randy. I know we've spoken quite a bit, and you've spoken to Ravit. I know we're giving away your book today to a few lucky people. So we'll leave it with you to look through the comments and look at some of the questions that came in and select the winners for best questions asked. We will take a couple of the questions here today. And I really love this one. I don't know who this was. This was a LinkedIn user. They have their privacy settings on. How fast is fast when it comes to failing? Is there sort of a time period associated with this?
Well, it's, fail fast is a metaphor for learning from experience. And certainly people in the data science world are used to test and learn, but it also means really decreasing iteration speeds, doing everything faster. I know throughout my career, I've always tried 9 things that fail for every one that succeeds. So you have to basically determine your time frame based upon the larger context that you're working within. But I know, for example, I was often judged. I had a number that I needed to hit each year in terms of revenue. And I knew if I tried one thing and that wasn't working and it was January, then, I could slowly adopt another thing. But if it got to September and I wasn't making that number, I needed to start fail fast and learn faster on a weekly basis.
Yep. That makes sense. Thank you for sharing. Question here from Kimberly, and she says, happy holidays. For small size companies, how would you best advise them to start their data journey and scale as they grow?
Yeah, honestly, work more with large organizations that have complex legacy environments. I think that small companies have an advantage because it's more of a greenfield opportunity. They don't have to worry about 50 or 100 or 150 years of systems, processes, culture. So I think smaller firms can, really, they have a greenfield opportunity and they can follow the paths of the Amazons and Googles and do it much easier, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully, but we can have hope. And I think we have time for just one more question here. What sectors do you see encountering the biggest challenges with data and using data for leadership and decisions?
Well, I think, one of the, at least in terms of investment, financial services is a huge investor in data initiatives. Financial services companies have been investing in data for 3 or 4 decades now. And the reason why is because customer relationships is so high value for those organizations. It's not like buying a box of cereal. Each customer relationship is worth hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to the organization. So they need to fight for every dollar. The biggest thing I've seen over the past 2 years is life sciences and pharmaceutical companies going at light speed to basically integrate data from all of their activities, all of their scientific initiatives. A lot of this was driven by COVID. So there's really been a tremendous growth in terms of life sciences and pharmaceutical companies escalating and elevating their data game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my answer is all sectors. That's it. I think it's always all of the above. But thank you so much, Randy, for your time here today. And just want to say congratulations. I know I told you this on LinkedIn, but congratulations on your big news. That's exciting. And I wish you all the best with your new journey there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Happy holidays.